Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajrakacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajrakacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Welcome everybody. This is a very nice Taco Tuesday crowd. You can sit at the end here if you want. We'll give you your books and everything. Have a bench all to yourself if you like. Yeah, make sure they have books. We have more in the closet. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we'll be on page 427, text 6 of chapter 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chad, when you get a chance, this is too high. Sorry, we've got to lower the volume a little bit. Okay. Okay? All right, I'll just speak a little softer. Okay. Yeah, we're okay. Okay. On the 7th day of October, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 10, the Opulence of the Absolute, text number 6, on page 427. Maharshaya Saptapurve Chattvaro Manavas Tatha Madbhava Manasa Jata Yesham Loka Ima Prajaha Maharshayak Saptapurve Chattvaro Manasastatha Madbhava Manasa Jata Yeshang Loka Hima Prajaha Maharshayak Saptapurve Chattvaro Manavastatha Madbhava Manasa Jata Yesham Loka Hima Prajaha Maharshayak Saptapurve Chattvaro Manavastatha Madbhava Manasa Jata Yesham Loka Hima Prajaha. Dharmaraj. Maharshayak Saptapurve Chattvaro Manavastatha Madbhava Manasa Jata Yesham Loka Hima Prajaha. Chad. Maharshayak Saptapurve Chattvaro Manavastata Bhava Manasa Jata Yesham Loka Hima Prajaha. Dr. Joseph. Chattvaro Manavastata Madbhava Manasa Jata Yesham Loka Hima Praja. Anyone else on this side want to try it? Maharshayak Saptapurve Chattvaro Manavastata Bhava Manasa Jata Yesham Loka Hima Praja. Ladies. Maharshayak Saptapurve Chattvaro Manavastata Madbhava Manasa Jata Yesham Loka Hima Praja. Any other ladies here want to try it? I guess not. Okay. Not yet. Anyone online? They all went to India. Okay, I want to get to text 8 tonight because that's the first of the essential 4 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Maharishiyak, the great sages, Sapta, 7, Purve, before, Chatvaraha, 4, Manavaha, Manus, Tata, also, Mat Bhava, born of me, Manasaha, from the mind, Jataha, born, Yesham, of them, Loke, in the world, Imaha, all this Prajaha, population. Okay. Translation. The 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages, and the Manus, progenitors of mankind, come from me, born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. Purport. The Lord is giving a genealogical synopsis of the universal population. Brahma is the original creature born out of the energy of the Supreme Lord, who is known as Hiranyagarbha. And from Brahma, all the 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages, named Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatan, and Sanat Kumara, and the 14 Manus are manifested. All these 25 great sages are known as the patriarchs of the living entities all over the universe. There are innumerable universes and innumerable planets within each universe, and each planet is full of population of different varieties. All of them are born of these 24 patriarchs. Brahma underwent penance for 1,000 years of the demigods before he realized by the grace of Krishna how to create. Then from Brahma came Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatan, and Sanat Kumara. Then Rudra, that's Lord Shiva, and then the 7 sages, and in this way all the Brahmins and Kshatriyas are born out of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahma is known as Pitamaha, the grandfather, and Krishna is known as Prapitamaha, the father of the grandfather. That is stated in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 11:39. Om Jnana Timirandus Dasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, we're hearing a little bit about the disciplic succession and the genealogical succession in the universe. And in this chapter, just a preview, in a couple of verses, we'll get to the first of the Chatur Shloki, you say, which four essential verses of the Bhagavad Gita. And what Krishna will establish there, and this is also there in the Bhagavatam, there are 4 essential verses of the Bhagavatam. And the first verse of each of these 4 verses, sets of verses, Krishna declares himself to be the source of everything. Here he will say, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam bhavartate. Everything emanates from me. And if you don't understand that so well, just think of it this way. Everything you see emanates from me. So he says it twice. and those who understand this, they worship me with all their hearts. And how they do so is explained in the second verse. So we may get to both of those today. I think we will. Now in the Bhagavatam, he says a similar thing. Krishna is speaking, and he says, Ahame vasame vagre nanya yatsarasat param. Before there was all of this universe that you see, before that existed, I existed. And that means I created it, right? It's a little different emphasis. So the essential point here, both here in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, is that both of them deal with the ultimate question. Who are we? Why are we suffering? Is there a God? And if there is a God, what are his qualities? What is his nature? And all of these different things. This is the question that human beings should ask. Because otherwise we live futile lives. We live in such a way that we become entangled in the material world even further, because we have to try to eat, we need to sustain ourselves, there's always dangers coming, the climate change, right? There's three kinds of the general dangers. Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, and Adi Atmik. Now, you know what they are, you may not know what those words mean. Adi Bhautik means pains caused by other living entities, often other human beings. Have any of you ever experienced something like that? Okay. Starting in 2nd grade, right? Yeah. So that's there. And sometimes that can be huge. Wars, we've all heard of World War II and World War I, so this is the big one. Adidaivik. Adidaivik means natural disturbances. It's getting worse. Have you noticed? Climate change, whatever you want to see it, but huge. I mean, this season it hasn't been a hurricane. It's been like a miracle. But the hurricanes last year, you remember, it's cutting across Florida. I have a friend who lives in Alachua. Alachua is northern part of Florida, near Gainesville, and they have a big community there. It's the biggest community of devotees in the United States. There's 500 to 600 devotees live there. And many of them are older devotees. My godbrothers, godsisters, Prabhupada's direct disciples. So I'm checking this horrific hurricane that developed in the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to keep calling it the Gulf of Mexico, if that's all right with you. And it started moving east, directly heading for Florida. And it was really powerful because the hurricanes, they take their energy from the heat of the water, whether it's the Gulf of Mexico or the ocean, So the water's been heating up. And so this thing was moving, and it's like death personified, And I was calling my friend, and he said, "You batten down the hatches?" And well, we just, And somehow it went a little south and went south of him, so it wasn't so bad. There was some rain and wind, but it wasn't really bad. Then there was the other hurricane. I think this was the first one, that went north and hit North Carolina. You remember that? And just devastated, And so it went south of him and north of him. I said, "Boy, you guys really lucked out because they had beautiful deities there. They made this temple with Radha Shyamasundar, Krishna Balaram are there. Most beautiful Krishna Balaram. I can show some pictures maybe next week. Anyway, but that's the nature of this world. And the fires in California, and that when it hit Hawaii a few years ago, you remember that hurricane and caused fires and death. So these kind of things, and more widespread and destructive are droughts and floods. You see. All right, I'm not going to get into detail. You know all this. So there's Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, and then Adhyatmic. Everything may be peaceful, weather's fine, no hurricanes, nobody's bothering you, but you have terrible anxiety because you can't pay your rent. They're often interactive, or whatever happened, or the person who you're so attached to left you, or whatever it may be. And it's causing so much pain inside. Your own mind is causing you a problem, or some chronic disease you have that's causing it. So this is the nature of the material world. But we learn from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the great acharyas, from all the learned souls, really learned, that that's not inevitable. That there is a life, that we ourselves as souls never perish. We never die. And we were never born. I mean, that itself is kind of revolutionary to understand, isn't it? Because we usually identify with this particular body. I was born at a certain time, will die at a certain time, and this is what we got. No, that's not what we got. This is one chapter in a very long book. We lived before, and we're going to live again. How's the verse go? Najayate, mriyate, va katachan, nayam budva bhavitava nabuya, ajo nityak shasvatamyo purano. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Prabhupada will quote this verse all the time. For the soul, that's us, the eternal soul. There's no birth or death at any time. We have not come into being. There are no souls coming into being now, or going out of being. You see, all the souls are existing eternally. And that is the third line, aja, unborn, aja nitya, eternal. And then there's kind of a little, you might call it redundancy in English. Ajo nitya shasvata, permanent, eternal, and purana, ancient. We lived millions of years ago, and we can't even count. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. The soul does not perish when the body perishes. That's a simple fact. And Krishna emphasized that in several places in the second chapter. It's the first lesson. Now, understanding that, if you believe it, and there's empirical evidence too. I'm sure all of you have heard of near-death experiences. They've been around now for quite a while. I mean, even before they became popular, they were around, but no one knew what to call them. So I had never had one, but there's a devotee, Sachinandan Swami. This was on we have a site called nandabats.com. It's a very wonderful site if you want to look for it. And he was featured there, and I think it was recorded, something they could listen to. And he had people, and he was telling his own experience with the near-death experience. His own. He had a serious disease. He went to the hospital. They messed up the anesthesia, and he almost died, And in that near death, he left his body, and he was watching what was going on, and he was experiencing it, So, but there's hundreds of them. You go on YouTube and you look for near-death experience, and you can find them. Yes. You need to put it in there because we have an audience, believe it or not. YouTube, right there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just
yeah, just push the button until the light goes on.
Okay. I just have a question. Where in the body is the soul?
In the heart, the heart area. And there's another soul in there, super soul. expansion of God. Yes, he's all. Anyway, we'll get to that. Yes.
Here.
Sure. So anyway, here we are, eternal, and we're instructed very early on that all this suffering and this birth and death experience, this is artificial. It's because we're identifying ourselves with the body. Now, the body certainly takes birth and gets old and dies. You know, sometimes you don't get old, but you still die, you know, in an accident or a disease, whatever. But the body came into existence, and it will go out of existence in time. But we have to really have confidence, you know, this is the basic foundation of faith, that we're not the body. And that there is a solution to this problem of birth, old age, disease, and death. And all these threefold miseries, you know, that surround us. Adidaivic, Adiatmic, Adibautic. I remember, I bring this up whenever I talk about this. I was, sorry to repeat myself, but you know, I was raised as an atheist. Actually, an Orthodox communist. Sorry, it's a fact. My father was an organizer in the 30s in the New York area, and then he would read Das Kapital to me, a translation. That's Marx's famous book, every evening. But my parents were very kind people. Their involvement was to try to help others, you know, and I picked up on that. But the idea of one of the principles of Marxism was from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs. Has anyone ever heard that before? That was a major thing. And when I came to Krishna consciousness, it kind of sounds like Varnashram. Everyone should, you know, has certain qualities. Some are good at manual labor. You know, you have Shudras, they can get a job. A lot of jobs needed for that. Farmers, people who can do that. Those who are good leaders of people, and also maybe have a martial, you know, bent. You know, then we need Kshatriyas, the warrior class. We need that for security. And then the Brahmin class, those who are intellectuals, who serve as professors and things like that. You know. So anyway, that was how I was raised. But I became very frustrated with my efforts to end the Vietnam War. I and thousands of others were trying to end that horrible war that was going on. That was just horrific. So many innocent people suffering. But I failed, you know, and the failure was confirmed by the election of Richard Nixon in '68. All from the '64, '65, '66, '67, we were going to Washington, D.C., demonstrating, you know, draft resistance, sending in our cards, our draft cards, and all these things. But it was a failure. So that was a big blow to my, you know, happiness, and so that came about. But the idea of doing good to others, and also when the Eastern music started to come in, you know, the Beatles and Ravi Shankar, does that name still mean something? You know, I got attracted to that. So the East kind of opened up for me, you know. And then when I got seriously ill, I recovered from a serious case of hepatitis, I said, I need some way of getting my health back, you know. And one of the things came to mind, this yoga stuff, we're talking about 1970, you know, and it wasn't really all over the place yet. And I found in the Yellow Pages, does anyone remember what the Yellow Pages are? I thought only those who were like 60 to 70 could remember that. Anyway, so I looked in the Yellow Pages. I'm on Long Island, and the only yoga studio was in Manhattan, so I had to drive in there. But the yoga studio that Krishna sent me to was run by a devotee named Shiva Prem, who was later became Amala Bhakta. He joined the Hare Krishna movement. There's a whole story behind that. But it opened up the East, and I was also philosophically inclined, and I read the Bhagavad Gita. There's a little penguin edition. It was a little thin thing, you know. You read through, you had no idea what to do. You know, there's a famous story, well, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who was one of our main leaders, he would preach in the colleges. And he went to a professor of religious studies or whatever, and so he asked him, have you read the Bhagavad Gita? Oh, I haven't read the Bhagavad Gita. Of course I read the Bhagavad Gita, you see. Well, could you understand what it means? Of course, you know, what are you kidding? So then he said, well, what are you going to do about it? What do you mean, what am I going to do? You know, I'll just keep teaching it to my students and getting tests and that, you know. In other words, he didn't realize that it's what we call a normative book. It's supposed to, if you have faith in it, and it should change your behavior. Krishna has, he orders Arjuna at the end, and this is for us too. 2 essential verses. I put them into a little poem. So he says, and we'll get to this in a few months. He says, Manmana, this is verse 1865. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madjaji mam namaskuru. Mame vaishasi satyam te pradijane priyosime. So Krishna is summing up the whole book in these 2 verses. So he says, just think of me, become devoted, worship me and bow down low. You'll come to me, O friend, I promise you this boon I shall bestow. Sarva dharman parityajya, mamekam sharanam brajam. Sharanam braja. Sarva dharman parityajya, mamekam sharanam braja, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshiyasami ma shuchaha. Now you can visualize Krishna with this. And when we open, I hope most of you can stay for the arti. When those curtains open, check out Radharani's right hand. It's like this. This is a mudra. Mudras we're familiar with. You may know what they call. Does everyone know what this means? I don't know. Are you kidding me? What are you talking? Well, how about this one? Right? Mudras are universal. So now this is a mudra. There's a name for it. It's called Abhay Dan. Dan means a gift, and Abhay means fearlessness. Because a big problem in material life is fear, isn't it? Anxiety. Not only physical fear, but fear of poverty, fear of COVID-19. It's a fearful world. So she's saying, you just serve us, meditate on us, practice bhakti yoga, and you'll be free of fear. You see? Because you'll be protected. Krishna will protect. And we can read Krishna's Leela. Srila Prabhupada gave us so many wonderful books, and one of the most wonderful, they're all wonderful, is Krishna Book. It's called Krishna Book. It's what he called a summary study of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now you may have heard, you've come to the temple here, about some Krishna's Leela, most famous of which is the Rasa dance, of course, with the gopis. But now we're celebrating a certain month. It's called the month of Damodar or Kartik. But when every morning we sing, you're all invited. We offer lamps to the deity. This is all very auspicious. Good luck. And we remember Krishna's pastimes as a little baby. He's God hiding all of his magisterial energy so that he could have this wonderful relationship with his dear mother, Yashoda Devi. But he was a real imp. Imp is a perfect word for Krishna. You look it up. A mischievous boy who's very hard to control. Exactly, Krishna. So his mother is churning butter. She's a coward girl. She's a senior, but she's still churning. And Krishna grabbed the churning rod, and he wanted her to suckle him. Because he's that age. So she said, "Okay, sure." So she put down. And she starts but she had put on some milk on the oven to boil. It was special milk for Krishna. It was all for Krishna. And she could hear, the milk is boiling over. So she said, this is not good. It was all for, she said, I got to save that milk, that special milk. That was gourmet milk that she got for Krishna because he's stealing milk products from the neighbors. She thinks, well, maybe he doesn't like our milk. So she puts him down, and he becomes very upset in the middle, mid-suckle. And so what does he do? He breaks the pot that she's churning, the yogurt. And he takes a little, and he takes a little of it, and he eats a little, and he runs off, and he feeds the monkeys with it and everything. So she comes back, and she says, "Oh boy, what happened here? It looks like..." So in the Gita, in the 10th canto of the purport, it says she followed his butter-smeared footprints. You see, and she had this little stick that she was, she's going to punish him with. So she sneaks up behind him, but Krishna, he's omniscient after all. So he wanted to engage it. So he gets down, he starts running. So there's this whole running pastime, and she chases after him into the field and everywhere, And there's this beautiful verse, Bilba Mangal Thakur writes, "Somebody sudabhinamam maya sayantamanayandim lambalakamalambe tambalam tunapirlagnajambalam." Just the sound, right, is so beautiful. So what that means is, somebody sudabhinam. Sudabhinam are the cows. So Krishna is running into the fields among the cows. Now it seems that he's so small that he can run under the cows, and Mother Yashoda can't do that, so she's fine. And the field is muddy with the milk. The cows are so blissful that the milk is leaking, and it's now muddied the earth. So Krishna falls down and he gets all muddy, but he's running. So finally, she captures him, and so then actually the verse says, "I worship that boy Krishna who is decorated with all the mud of the pasturing ground, and who is and whose hair is hanging down. It's not it's not combed or anything like that." It's a wonderful meditation. So this is Krishna hiding his majestic powers to evoke and make possible this intimate, loving relationship with his mother. And he does the same thing. He has his friends. It's a different kind of relationship, and of course with the gopis. And there's also some boys who take themselves to be servants of his. So there's these 4 rasas. So this is but here Krishna is talking about his majesty. So let's go on. Let's go to 7, and then we'll study 8 because it's a really essential verse. Vibhuti means glory, opulence. Etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo veti tattvataha so vikalpena yogena yujyate natra samshayaha. One who is fat. So what is this opulence? Let's review the 6. The 7 great sages, before them all the great sages, they all come from me, born from my mind, and all living beings popular in various planets descend from them. So Krishna is the source of everything. That's quite a vibhuti. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mine engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt. Purport. The highest summit of spiritual perfection is knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one is firmly convinced of the different opulences of the Supreme Lord, he cannot engage in devotional service. Generally, people know that God is great, but they do not know in detail how God is great. Here are the details. If one knows factually how God is great, then naturally he or she becomes a surrendered soul and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. When one factually knows the opulences of the Supreme, there is no alternative but to surrender to him. This factual knowledge can be known from the descriptions in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures. In the administration of this universe, there are many demigods distributed throughout the planetary system, and the chief of them is Brahma. The chief of them are Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the 4 great Kumaras and the other patriarchs. There are many forefathers of the population of the universe, and all of them are born of the Supreme Lord Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original forefather of all forefathers. These are some of the opulences of the Supreme Lord. When one is firmly convinced of them, he accepts Krishna with great faith and without any doubt, and he engages in devotional service. All this particular knowledge is required in order to increase one's interest in loving devotional service of the Lord. One should not neglect to understand fully how great Krishna is, for by knowing the greatness of Krishna, one will be able to be fixed in sincere devotional service. So just one little story. If you go, I think it's in the 2nd canto, where we get some details of Brahma creating the universe, And this is related how it's all, pretty amazing. It's startling. So Brahma is not born in an ordinary way. Brahma is born from a big flower that grows from the navel of an expansion of Krishna named Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. That's a lot of information in that. So Krishna creates, he creates everything and manages the whole universe by the expansions of his energies. And his plenary expansions means that there are Vishnu expansions that are like persons, and they perform a certain function. And why? And it's like, well, what would you do if you were God? Would you spend all your time worrying about all the details of the management of the universe? It would be a big headache. And no, you delegate, right? You delegate. So that it's all being carried out by is Krishna's energies and by these expansions. Just like Brahma. Like Brahma is the original patriarch, everyone descends from him. So he's got 4 heads. And at a certain point when the creation is taking place, he got a big headache, or should I say headaches. How to populate the universe? How is this going to happen? So he meditates, and what has he got to work with? His own body, really. So from his mind, these different energies, these different entities come. And the mentioned here are the 4 Kumaras. Now, they're very intelligent, very intelligent. And when they understand that Brahma, their father, wants them to propagate, get married and everything. But I said they're very intelligent, and so instead of doing that, they keep themselves as they have mystic powers. They don't grow up. Isn't there a movie like that? I won't grow up, I won't grow up. So they won't grow up because they want to remain children and unattached, you see. But they're super smart. They're so full of knowledge. And even though they look like 4-year-olds, they have pastimes in the Bhagavatam where they instruct great kings and so forth like that. So Brahma said, what do you mean you're not going to get married and have children? That's why I created you from my mind. Said, sorry, Dad. So he gets very angry, and he frowns like this, and between his eyebrows comes Lord Shiva. That's the origin of Lord Shiva, or Rudra. Rudra means someone who gets very angry. So that's going on. So Brahma's got quite a task to get the whole thing populated, and it takes a while. But he is the head of our sampradaya. Sampradaya means a disciplic succession of realized souls. And Krishna is, of course, at the top. But then there's Brahma, and then from him comes Vyasadeva? No. The 4 Kumaras, Brahma. Wait a minute. We got it in the front. Check the introduction, the very end. There it is. I should know this. Narada Muni. All right, Brahma, Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, Vyasadeva, Madhva, Acharya, Padmanabha, Nihari. Now we're down to like the ordinary human beings. But Narada himself is human, but he's very special in that he can fly through the universe, and wherever he goes, he imparts just the instruction necessary to inspire his ardent hearer to take up pure devotional service. He's the spiritual master of Vyasadeva, of Dhruva, of Prahlad. All of these great souls have Narada Muni as their spiritual master. And he tells his story in the Bhagavatam. He was just the son of a maidservant, in modern Earth, maybe a couple of thousand years ago. And these 4 sages came to stay at her place. She wasn't married, but beloved son. And she was very pious. So she put them up because it gets very rainy and you can't really travel. Otherwise, the mendicants, they go from place to place and preach and do sacrifice. So they were staying there, and they're pure Vaishnavas. So Narada, little Narada, maybe 6-year-old, he took the advantage of listening to what they were saying and doing whatever service he could. Did the laundry, the dishes, served out, whatever it was, So he became very purified by hearing their discourse, which was pure bhakti. And after that, he left. His mother died. She got bit by a snake. It was Krishna's arrangement. So now there's this little boy on his own, but he's got so much Krishna consciousness. So he goes wandering. He goes, and he sees Krishna within his heart and all of these things. And after that birth, he takes birth, I think, in the heavenly planets. Anyway, he becomes Narada Muni. He's given that blessing. He becomes very advanced. And he speaks he taught Vyasadeva, and then Vyasadeva, I think, taught his son Shukadeva the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it all comes out. So we're also followers of Narada Muni. We trace it all the way back. You can see this. So this is how things are going on. And the Kumaras, they also have their own sampradaya. They have their line as well. So this is mentioned here. And so Krishna is simply saying that I am the source of all this. What knowledge are they really understanding? And how do they speak it? He's in everyone's heart as the super soul. That will become clear in later chapters. That sarvasya chaham hridisam nivishto mattak smatir jnanam apohanangsha vedaischa sarva ahameva vejo vedantakrit veda vedeva chaham. Very important verse. So this would be 15:15. It's easy to remember the number. 15:15. So first he says, I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. He also says in 13th chapter, he describes himself. Sarvasya chaham vriddhi sannivishta. Vriddhi is the heart. And then, very, very, very important, mattak smriti. From me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness also. Forgetfulness is very important. How could we're sitting peacefully here if we all could remember our previous death? Or how about the last 5 deaths? Or the diseases? We'd all have PTSD, massive case of PTSD. So forgetfulness is there. But Krishna is giving in our heart, if we want it, instruction of how we can come to him. Now since we can't hear him, we're too covered over, he comes externally as the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, and the books, the Shastra, beginning with Bhagavad Gita, is directly Krishna's words. So reading the Bhagavad Gita, we get the association not only of Krishna, but also of Srila Prabhupada, his wonderful devotee, and also a few others who appear here, Arjuna and things like that. So we should think of it that way. Just like all of us must have, when we were kids, maybe even more recently, read a really entrancing novel, which is nicely written, and you really feel you're there, and it's because that's the power of words. So the same power can be used to give you the experience of Krishna consciousness, and especially the philosophy and the understanding. So I'm going to go on to this next verse, because this is the first verse of these essential 4 verses, and it's a very important passage here. We'll begin tonight. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti mudva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Can we completely close that door? It's a little bit noisy out there. Yeah, just pull it. That's it. That's good. Thank you. Purport. A learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya and who knows how to apply these teachings can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual worlds. And because he knows this perfectly, he becomes firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. He can never be deviated by any amount of nonsensical commentaries or by fools. All Vedic literature agrees that Krishna is the source of Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods. In the Atharva Veda, Gopaltapani Upanishad 124, it is said, Yo Brahmanam vidadhati purvam, yo vai vedangs chagapayati sma Krishna. It was Krishna who in the beginning instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge and who disseminated Vedic knowledge in the past. Close quote. Then again, the Narayan Upanishad 1 says, Ata Purusho ha vai Narayano kamayata praja svijayeti. Then the Supreme Personality, Narayan, desired to create living entities. The Upanishad continues, Narayanad Brahma Jayate, Narayanad Prajapati Prajayate, Narayanad Indro Jayate, Narayanad Ashtau Vasavo Jayante, Narayanad Ekadashat Rudra Jayante, Narayanad Dvadashityaya. From Narayan, Brahma was born. From Narayan, the patriarchs are also born. From Narayan, Indra is born. And from Narayan, the 8 Vasus are born. From Narayan, the 11 Rudras are born. From Narayan, the 12 Adityas are born. This Narayan is an expansion of Krishna. It is said in the same Vedas, Brahmanyo Devaki Putraha, the son of Devaki, Krishna, is the Supreme Personality. Narayan Upanishad 4. Then it is said, Eko vai Narayana asina Brahma neshano napo nagni soma neme dyab apritvi na nakshatrani na suryaha. In the beginning of the creation, there was only the Supreme Personality, Narayana. There was no Brahma, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no moon, no heaven and earth, no stars in the sky, and no sun. Upanishad 1.2. In the Upanishad, it is also said that Lord Shiva was born from the forehead of the Supreme Lord. Thus the Vedas say that it is the Supreme Lord, the creator of Brahma and Shiva, who is to be worshipped. In the Moksha Dharma section of the Mahabharata, Krishna also says, Prajapatim charudram cha aham eva sujami vai tau yiham na vijanito mama maya vimohito. 5-second timeout. This thing is running out of juice. Sorry. Okay. The patriarchs, Shiva and others, are created by me, though they do not know that they are created by me, because they are deluded by my illusory energy. In the Varaha Purana, it is also said, Narayana paro devas tasmad jatas chaturmukha tasmad rudro bhavadeva sacha sarva gitam gitaha. Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him Brahma was born, from whom Shiva was born. Lord Krishna is the source of all generations, and he is called the most efficient cause of everything. He says, quote, because everything is born of me, I am the original source of all. Everything is under me, no one is above me, close quote. There is no supreme controller other than Krishna. One who understands Krishna is in such a way from a bona fide spiritual master, with references from Vedic literature, engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness, and becomes a truly learned man. In comparison to him, all others who do not know Krishna properly are but fools. Only a fool would consider Krishna to be an ordinary man. A Krishna-conscious person should not be bewildered by fools. He should avoid all unauthorized commentaries and interpretations on the Bhagavad Gita and proceed in Krishna consciousness with determination and firmness. So all these quotes that Prabhupada gave here, this is because this is the key beginning of our Krishna consciousness, and that is, who is God? Is there a God? And if so, who is he? What's his name? What's his qualities? What does he look like? You know, and only this religion, only this Dharma, this Sanatana Dharma Bhakti path, can give the greatest detail, full details of who Krishna really is. He's not just the creator and the destroyer, you know, and all of this. He is also the supremely beautiful one, all attractive. I remember when I was, you know, in my searching phase, going here and there. And I saw the picture of Krishna with the flute. Now, I happen to be a flute player. And I said, well, that's interesting. God is a flute player. So naturally, I investigated more. But he's not just a flute player. You know, the flute sound that he makes with his flute is heart-melting. And the perfect example of that is the gopis. And the gopis are attracted to Krishna irresistibly. So, why not? If you were God, wouldn't you want to be the most attractive, the strongest, the famous, the most funny? You know, it's all these qualities are there. Everything that we value in someone's personality, that attractive, Krishna has it in spades. In fact, it all is coming from him. Whatever my flute playing was, it was, you know, the skill was coming from Krishna. I wasn't very good, but so the point is that Krishna is saying the essential factor, right? We go back to the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra, and it's not an accident that Prabhupada's name is Bhakti Vedanta, meaning that the end of all knowledge culminates in bhakti. But the Vedanta Sutra is recognized as the essence, the essence of all Vedic knowledge is there. But it has to be understood by and explained because it's aphorisms. They're like codes. It's difficult. So the first one is an injunction to us human beings. Tato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, therefore, implying now, therefore, that you're a human being, you should inquire into Brahman. What is Brahman? Well, the most important definition is that it's the source of everything. The source of everything. And that's the second sutra. So it's explaining Janmad Yasya Yataha. You notice how they need explanation, obviously. So Janma Adi. Janma means birth, of course. What's the Adi, etc.? Birth, maintenance, and destruction. That's the three phases of everything created, including our own body. Birth, there's actually 6. Birth, growth, maintenance, children, the byproducts, dwindling, and death. Everything that comes into being, especially living beings, have those stages. So, no problem. Hey, we know that we're not the body, right? We don't, the soul doesn't have those changes. We're Ajja, unborn, and eternal. So keep that in mind. So the Vedanta Sutra is saying you can inquire into the source of everything. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Purana, which is probably the first book, real substantial book that he translated, because of his monumental workload of managing this ISKCON society, traveling all over the world. He got up in the middle of the night and dictated as much as he could, but he only finished through the 10th canto, chapter 13, leaving another 77 chapters in the 10th canto, 23 or 4 chapters in the 11th canto, and 13 in the 12th canto. And I had the greatest good fortune to be able to help finish that book with Gopi Puranadana Prabhu and Hridyananda Das Goswami in Miami. It took us 6 years. But Prabhupada wanted that book, he wanted it to be 60 volumes. But it was said, yeah, well, we'll never sell any of those because it'll be $600 a piece. So it came out finally to 18 volumes. But that Bhagavad Purana is the best commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And it starts out with the same words. That second sutra, Janma Yasitaha, are the first 3 syllables of the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Goes on. Janma Yasitaha, that's Vedanta Sutra. Janma Yasayaton Vayada Tatatashtartes Vibhigya Swarat Tene Brahma Vadaya Adikapahe Bhuyanti Yatsureha Tejo Vani Vadam Yatavana Mayo Yatrati Sargo Mrisha Damna Svena Sadana Dastago Kam Satyam Param Dhimahi. That's the Bhakti Prabhupada would tell how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explained that verse for like 3 months. In Dhaka, or one city I think in Pakistan. It's so rich, I mean, basically, Janma Yasya, it's describing that this who is the source of the Janma, of the birth and maintenance? It's Krishna. And he describes that. He talks about the 3 moles. He talks about enlightening Brahma in the heart with knowledge, and how he's always situated in the spiritual world, enjoying, And everything is going on automatically. He doesn't, what is that? Parasa Shakti Vividhai Vashuyate Swabhavati Jnanabala Kriyacha. Natasya Karyam Karanam Cha Vidyate Natatsamascha Vyadikasta Vishyate. He doesn't have any duties to perform. Duties are given by a higher power. There's no higher power, you see. So much is going on of the maintenance and development and finally the destruction of this creation, right? Not just this universe, but millions of universes. So it's all coming from that Krishna. So how is that going on, So it describes he doesn't have any duties. He doesn't have anything that he has to do in order to make this all happen personally. Then how's it going on? Parasa Shakti Vividhai Vasuyate. He has unlimited different energies that are doing it, and expansions. There was this one verse, it was Narayana this, Narayana that. Narayana is called the plenary expansion of Krishna. Plenary means fully powerful, you see. But he doesn't have all the qualities of Krishna, the all attractiveness, He's the Lord of Vaikuntha, Narayan. He's got the 4 arms and he got the conch and the disc and the. And the one mood there is service. I mean, it's very transcendental Vaikuntha, but it's not Goloka Vrindavan. You see, Krishna is there in his most attractive, delightful form. So we all have, every single one of us has a special relationship with Krishna that we've forgotten. And mukti, which is so much exalted in all the Vedic literatures. Mukti, yes, let's get free of birth, old age, disease, and death. But it's more than that. And that's defined in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto. What is mukti, really? Liberation. Mukti hitva anyata rupam swarupena vivastatihi. Very important verse. Real mukti means this. Mukti hitva, giving up, anyata rupam. All these other forms we've had, including these forms, we're going to have to give it up anyway. We've already given up so many forms. How many, all of us were 8 years old at one time. What happened to that one? No longer around, right? Oh, the time. Oh, I forgot. Okay. Anyway, so mukti means giving up these false forms that we have, this one, and being reinstated into a real original form, Swarup. Each of us has a personal, eternal relationship with Krishna that we forgot, that's been covered all these years, millions of births. But we can rediscover it through the process of bhakti yoga, based on the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. The Hare Krishna mantra, the name Krishna is non-different from Krishna. If we chant nicely and we learn how to do it within the discipline of bhakti yoga, then we can feel and experience the purification and the gradual bliss growing in service to Krishna. So that, please, read Srila Prabhupada's books and come back if you can. We're going to have these following 3 essential verses we'll deal with tomorrow, Wednesday. So now we're going to have the Aratik, so please join us. The curtains will open. Beautiful Radha Giridhari. Don't forget the mudra, Abhay Dan mudra. You meditate on that, your life will be sublime. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.